Is any going to be with us today?
Hey. Well, hello everybody. This is Scott Roberts and Kent Marts here. And missing today is Dan George, but he could not be with us this week, so we decided to do this ourselves. And this week, I think we have a bunch of submissions from people who watch this program, and looking forward to seeing what they've got out there. Ken?
So sorry, I was trying to get. I had a sound coming through both ears. And,
Oh, I see. That's funny.
was-
I have sound coming in both of my ears too. Right
Yeah,
now.
but it was you talking, and then 12 seconds later, you talking again on
Oh, me
Facebook.
talking again. I
On
see.
Facebook, and my head was about to explode. So, we shall get started. Let me get set up here, and since I'm having to. Got to rearrange since I'm having to deal with doing the conversation, the bird part as well. Gonna take me a little bit longer. Oh, great! I'm getting a security alert. Let's try this again.
Security alert?
Yeah,
Danger, Will Robinson.
that's exactly what I was going to say. That ages us, Scott. Whether we all want to admit it or not, you just aged all of us.
Yeah,
Okay,
I remember when
so
I remember when Lost in Space was a new program on TV.
I saw it in reruns, I think, but
Oh, yeah.
Will Robinson.
Yeah, I saw it when it was on prime time, the premiere. It's pretty exciting.
Okay, here we go. So, well, let's start at come on. Here we go. Welcome to On the Wings with Dan George, who is here in spirit, but not in disembodied Zoom.
Yes, that's right.
So we're going to start with a reader submission. These are reader submissions.
Not readers.
Not readers. Well, they might read the words. But, viewer submissions or something. So anyway, Martin.
Yeah, birders. They're all birders out there.
And Martin sent me this. And Martin, I think you're on. I sent you an email asking when you were in Kwajalein and your purpose there, because we've got some birds. So if you'll real quick pound out that answer, why were you on Kwajalein and when? That'll give us some context of the pictures that are coming up in just a minute. So we're looking at the Pileated Woodpecker. We've seen this bird before. And of course.
Now, why is it called pileated?
I have no idea. Pileated or pileated. I started to look it up, but of course, the sound's not going to run. So I want you to hear this. So let me work on this a little bit. So what screen are you seeing now, Scott? Are you seeing?
We see a screen within a screen.
You see me
We
type
see
in
Google right now.
Okay. This ain't gonna work because it's not embedded. Boy, this is frustrating. I'm hoping all my sounds aren't dead because that's not linking. All right. So anyway, Pileated Woodpecker is one of the biggest birds in North America. When you see it in the woods, it is the size of a crow. 18 to 20 inches long. It has a very obvious red crown, red crest. People often call it a red-headed woodpecker, but as we've seen, a red-headed woodpecker is red from the neck up, like a bald eagle is white from the neck up. A red-headed woodpecker is from the shoulders up, all red. It has a black and white stripe down its neck, obviously. A very large bill. This is a male, which is discerned by the red patch on its cheek, on its chin. Wow. So if this is a black patch, it's a female, but this is a red patch, so we know it's a male. And looking at the distribution, The Midwest is pretty well devoid of pileated woodpeckers, mostly because they've got to have large stands of timber in which to survive because they pack wood. And you get out in the plains, and there's just not enough wood out there to support their habitat.
I did see one of these in Bentonville. Okay.
Yep.
I was blown away by how huge this bird was. And he was pecking away at a tree stump that was out in the yard. And I guess they eat insects. And I read that pileated refers to its red crest, and in Latin, pileatus means capped. Like
there we go. So it's a capped woodpecker. So when you hear their call, hopefully the sounds are going to run. If not, I may shut down the PowerPoint and try it again. Males and females are similar. You'll see them just like Scott said, searching in standing timber, both live and dead. They leave behind large cavities that become habitat for a wide range of cavity dwellers, from bluebirds, lots of different cavity dwelling birds, and also mammals. Can also be found hammering along downed logs and flipping over bark in search of food. The pairs mate for life and generally stay in the same territory year round. So a very unique bird. I'm going to see real quick. So we'll go. We don't have any sound on these next couple of slides. These are Martin Eastburn's photos. This is what he identifies as a cormorant on Kwajalein Atoll. And, obviously I can't get enough detail to specify what bird this is, but it most assuredly does have the body of a cormorant. And if you look on this picture, the United States is over here on the right side of the globe, and Kwajalein is down here. It's in the Marshall Islands. It's northeast of Australia and effectively north of New Zealand. It is out there in the great void of the Pacific Islands. So just a pretty picture. Here's a picture of a large bird on Kwajalein. I can't tell if it's the same bird or not. It doesn't look like it. I included a picture of Kwajalein Atoll, which is down here at the bottom where the red dot is Kwajalein Island. And there's a whole bunch of islands around this coral reef. And those of us old enough to remember, know that Kwajalein and a number of other islands, the Kwajalein Atoll was the testing site for, I believe, 11 nuclear blasts.
Oh.
And, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of other nuclear testing was done in the Marshall Islands as well. It remains a missile testing base as well. So you're getting a little geography here too. All right, so here's a Martin Eastburn photo, a mixed flock of birds, black birds in his backyards. There's blackbirds, grackles, and I think there's probably a bunch of starlings, although I didn't do a starling here. But in the fall, they start gathering up in very large flocks. So we're going to go here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing because these videos should be playing. I'm going to close down, sir.
You're going to try to fix that.
Yes.
Hey, there's a comment about an ivory-billed woodpecker.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's listed as most probably extinct.
Right.
But it said in the 21st century, reported sightings and analyses of audio and visual recordings have been published in peer-reviewed scientific journals as evidence that the species persist in Arkansas,
in the big woods,
Louisiana, and Florida. Various land purchases and habitat restoration efforts have been initiated in areas where sightings and other evidence have suggested a relatively high probability that that species does exist to protect any surviving individuals.
So
I think that's amazing.
it was in the big woods, which is along the lower portion of the White River. It's, all wetlands, all flooded in the winter. And it is, for the amount of effort that went into it and the game cameras that were spread out.
Yeah.
I think the conclusion was that probably not, but you can't prove a negative. So you can't prove that it doesn't exist. But I think the common belief now is it probably was not a one of those woodpeckers. It makes a very distinct double knock, and they put recording traps out and then used AI and people to listen to hours and hours and days and months and years of recordings, listening for that unique double knock.
I see.
So, it'd be cool if it was still there. It is a vast tract of, pretty well, wilderness. It's cool. I've never floated it in a canoe in the wintertime when it gets flooded, but I think that would be pretty cool to do. All right, so here we go. I've got it working now. So here's the Pileated Woodpecker's call. Once you hear it, and I think we've hit it before, once you hear it, you will hear the bird coming from a long ways off. Here we go. And they're not shy about saying that over and over again.
Uh-huh.
And they're just probably one of the loudest birds in the woods that I've ever heard.
Wow.
So that's a female because there's no red sheep. I think maybe the lighting's bad. Did you see that little fella? Peck says, "Go get more food."
Yeah, go back to work.
So there you can see the male and female. Male's on the right, female is on the left. There's a male. You can see that red cheek bar. There we go. So anyway, they make that sound continuously. And while lots of the birds we hear have trills and whistles and patterns that you sort of have to memorize and to be able to tell the difference between them, once you hear that sound, you're going to know it's a pileated woodpecker. There's nothing else makes that sound. And it's not similar really to anything else either. So moving along. All right. So we're at, I've always just called this bird a blackbird, but technically it's a Brewers Blackbird. Has a more than just a blackbird name. It's a Brewers Blackbird. And here's the sound of a male singing. The bird makes other sounds as well. I could not find a good video of it or audio of it. But when you get 10,000 of these birds together, it's pretty unique. Now then, let's stop this right there. You can see that bright eye. That bright eye is one of the distinguishing features of the male bird. Okay, so when you see the Brewers Blackbird in bright light, the colors are a spectrum of dark shades: black, metallic green, midnight blue. Not as iridescent as another bird we're going to talk about. The females are brown and do not sport that bright eye that you see. Very social birds. They nest in flocks. They generally travel in flocks. Can be found across a large range of habitats throughout the United States, from fields to woodlands. as we all know, when the fall migration starts happening, you can drive along and see a farmer's field with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of mixed blackbird, 2 words, flocks, in which there's often starlings and brewer blackbirds, and also the common grackle. Okay, common grackle is very similar to Brewers Blackbird. It's just a lot bigger and a lot longer, and has a more tapered bill. So you can compare the bills, as Dan has talked about. The body is very glossy iridescence. All the colors of the rainbow can be in there as it moves in the sunlight. Again, as we've seen, very social birds gather in these huge flocks and comfortable in everywhere from open fields to wetlands and woodlands. Common, around the eastern 2/3 of the United States and the eastern half of the United States, effectively, they are there year round. So let's listen to this bird. So if you listen to the background, you can also hear a red-winged blackbird back there and a turtle dove or a mourning dove. So just a very, loud, very loud bird, and you get, 1,000 or 2,000 of them in your yard. It is very loud and noisy when they start flocking up for the fall migration, which is going to start happening around here pretty soon. So that's the common grackle. And I often wonder why, in this situation, why the habitat is different enough once you get to Arizona, Colorado, Nevada. The West Coast does not have them. So yeah, it's just strange that they don't get all the way across the continent. I always wonder about that when I see maps like this. And, if they can get across the plains, because they've made it across Kansas and Nebraska and, most of Colorado, even up in the mountains of Colorado, but for some reason they don't get on the West Coast. So one of those strange things. So the common grackle. Moving on. Everybody can name what this bird is, I suspect. Anybody probably 10 years old and older knows it's the Canada goose. Okay. Now I hear people call them Canadian geese. That is an incorrect usage. They're the Canada goose. And weirdly, this is a Mike Wiesner photograph. Weirdly, it's carrying an egg in its mouth. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I meant to look up this when I found out a while ago that Dan wasn't going to be with us. And it was going to look up why they would be carrying an egg. I suspect they're moving a nest for some reason. I'm going to guess, along with the bald eagle, this is one of the most identifiable birds in North America. The distinctive white patch on the neck and on the otherwise black neck makes it clearly distinguishable from other geese. The honk it makes it an easy bird to hear. Turns out there are 11 subspecies. However, that's changing because the cackling goose has been fairly recently recognized as its own species. And I think as we get more DNA testing of birds, we're going to see, more information come out about, what species are and subspecies aren't. These birds are migratory. When I grew up here in Arkansas, the only time I saw Canada geese was in the winter. Now the Canada geese are year round because people thought, hey, it's going to be a great idea. Man, those are beautiful birds. Let's get some eggs from up north and hatch them in the south. Well, those birds hatched in the south and don't know to fly back to the north. So they have become, and there's a term for it. I looked it up and I didn't write it down, but they are here year round now and don't migrate. So we have Canada geese that migrate and Canada geese that don't. And they actually are so many of them now that they create problems. The Corps of Engineers has to close swim areas on lakes because of fecal coliform levels in the water directly from the Canada geese creates swimming or restrictions for humans. There's a huge range in size from the greater Canada goose, which can have a wingspan up to almost 7 feet, to the lesser geese. They're much more common in the smaller birds we see. An interesting fact I learned doing research is these birds tend to mate with birds of their own size. So even if they may be in a flock of some bigger birds and some smaller birds, they pair up based on size, and that is called assortative mating. So they sort themselves out by body size and mate by body size is how they tend to pair off. So let's listen to this. Everybody knows what they sound like, but
Oh yeah.
okay, so that may be more noticeable and definitely is louder than the Pileated Woodpecker, but we all know that sound. One of them nested by the side door, well, by the front door to my church's daycare. And so all was well and good until the male decided to become territorial and would chase people away from the door. So they had to, and you know, if you've ever seen anybody get flogged by a goose,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not a pretty sight because they grab onto you and just start beating you with their wings. I have never been flogged. I have seen it, and it would have to be
brutal.
a horrifyingly scary experience. I mean, because they have a hooked bill, they can bite you and they will bite you, and they do have claws, and they're going to grab onto you and just start flogging you with their wings. So I'm sure there's video out there on YouTube. I should have pulled one because that would have been sort of fun to watch. You know, when it's like one of your friends when they get hurt and you realize they're okay but injured, then you laugh at them. So it's sort of like,
So I read that some waterfowl will carry their eggs, you know, to a new nest if their old nest gets damaged.
that's what I figured was going on.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's, you know, the ability, you know, in the brain that's the size of maybe a pecan, a small pecan, is just amazing that tiny little birds, let alone big brained birds like the goose, you know, can migrate and not have this huge brain power. You know, you look at the monarch butterfly, migrate to places they've never been before. 5 generations from the butterflies that left a tree in central Mexico, 5 or 6 generations later, it flies back to the same patch of woods. And its brain is the size of a pinhead. And it's just, nature is just fascinating to me. I love the science of that. So there's a Mike Wiesner photo. And moving on, there we go. Another Mike Wiesner photo, the great blue heron. Big birds. I think we've talked about it before. Interestingly, the black patch on the back of its head, the very long, thick bill, is not designed for pecking things. It's designed for spearing and grabbing things. Because of the unique architecture in the vertebrae of their neck, they have lightning fast striking speed. And so they'll be wading in water on the shore and a fish will swim by and you'll see them, bam, come up with a bird or come up with a fish. Interestingly, the feathers on their breast continue to grow throughout life, and that gives them the frayed sort of, like a cloak almost in front of them. Easily identified by that blue-gray plumage, and they're very large size and very long legs. You're going to find them generally, almost exclusively, around water, or in water or around water. Here we go. Let's listen to the great blue heron.
Oh, it sounds prehistoric.
It does. Sounds like a Sasquatch to me.
It sounds.
I mean, listen to that.
Yeah, the last time we had a Sasquatch in our Boy Scout camp, made a noise similar to that. Scary.
Yeah, imagine, being, an hour after sunset and one of these birds starts doing that out in the woods.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a scary sound.
Yeah.
It is a
special
unique
effects
sound.
in a movie. Crazy.
Special effects in the movie. Now, the sound I hear and associate with the bird is this one.
Number
right here.
34, Great Blue Heron.
This ah. That's the sound I associate with the great blue heron.
Yeah.
Interesting that, it's a very, very large bird. And if you've never held birds tend to be strangely light for their size. While being such a big bird, this bird has hollow bones and it weighs no more than 6 pounds.
Wow.
But
it's a big bird. I mean,
they're
up to your
a couple of feet
chest,
tall.
Yeah,
they're a couple of feet tall, but weigh 6 pounds. Whereas this, and then we got an interesting comparison coming up with the next bird. I can, again, once you associate and hear that sound, you're going to be able to remember that's a great blue heron. There's some birds that just are very unique. And I can identify, I haven't thought about maybe a 24 birds by sound. I'm starting to work on trying to memorize some of the sparrow sounds. But our next bird, interestingly enough, is the mallard duck. Now, we all know how big a mallard duck is, right? Not nearly as large as the great blue heron. A average mallard duck is 3.5 pounds. And I have seen really fat ducks that have been feeding on corn and rice in East Arkansas that weigh pushing 5 pounds. So not nearly as big of a bird, but dense, muscular body. The mallard, distinctive green head, that iridescent green, the white collar, the darker brown, and then the dun brown, coupled with this cute little black curly tail, the duck tail, makes this bird easy to identify. That bright yellow bill, green head. It's just, you see it, it's a male greenhead. So female greenheads are generally gold, brown, and black, sort of in a quilted pattern. In the female birds, it is one of the prettier female birds. It's not just a drab brown bird. It has a whole lot more character to it. But easy to spot. Weirdly, the mallard duck is one of the more common hybridized ducks, wildly hybridized in the wild. They get strange combinations across the globe. And I have seen some really weird looking ducks that are some version of a mallard and some other duck. And they make some really strange looking combinations. They're a duck. You're going to find them around ponds and marsh areas. Urban greenheads can often be found grazing in subdivision yards. I have seen in the house I grew up in, from a pond that's about 5 blocks away in a park, there'll be flocks of greenheads that will fly into the neighborhood and just walk through the yards, grazing on the grass and quacking around. And then they'll fly off and go back to the pond. Geese sometimes, but typically we see a whole lot more of the mallards doing that as well. They're very strong flyers. They've been clocked at 55 miles an hour. Now, that's moving along in a car, and these birds can fly 55 miles an hour. I suspect that most migratory birds are fairly fast flyers because, the mallards typically are migrating out of the northern tier of the United States or the Canadian prairie lands, where they will raise their clutch of eggs in the spring in the prairie pothole regions and the lake regions, and then migrate down one of the flyways, with the biggest duck flyway being the Mississippi River flyway, and flying down for the winter. And in East Arkansas and Missouri and Illinois, they're attracted to the rice and soybean and cornfields. And in fact, some states pay farmers to leave part of the crop in the field to feed the migrating birds. And that goes, this is along the Mississippi that I'm aware of, that attracts the birds and sustains them through the winter. So the mallard duck, probably one of my favorite birds, just because it's so pretty. Kids love them. It's they get really urbanized and become very friendly and happy. Let's listen to it. We've probably all heard it, but here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Quack, 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 quack. It's pretty cool. My headphones, this is very stereo.
Yeah.
Anyway, it says quack, 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 like ducks that we know. So that's the end of the slideshow, except for not a butterfly on a pretty plant this time. From Terry Stanfield, we have a baby 5-line skink, which most of us will just call a lizard, but it is technically a skink. I always call these blue-tailed lizards because of their tails are blue, right? And I learned very quickly that when you grab a lizard or a skink, their tail pops off, and you're left with holding a wiggling tail, and there's a tailless skink running around. And I learned at some point that they grow their tails back, which still made me feel bad enough I quit trying to grab them by the tail when I was a kid. So pretty picture, I did just to remind us to look around at the pretty stuff around us and don't get caught up looking at one thing. Look around and find the beauty around you when you can. So that's the end of this week's slideshow. Let me stop sharing my screen. Next week, the show is entitled Birds and Their Friends.
And their friends.
Birds and their friends.
Mm-hmm.
So have to wait and see what that means, but I'm sure some of you have imagination enough, you can probably come close to what the program is going to be about. So anyway, again, send us some pictures. I've got a couple more I can use, but I can use other pictures. Obviously, the more you can identify the bird, the more I can say about it. Glad to do it. Did Mark ever reply? Because I thought I saw him on.
Martin?
Yeah, Martin.
Yeah, Martin's on.
Did he tell us why he was in Kwajalein?
Martin Eastburn says there's a pecan farm on the Rio Grande near El Paso. Oh, he was just talking about geese in general. He said
Okay.
they had a problem of people coming in and stripping their trees. Geese stopped in the intruders, and they make as much for geese each year as pecans. So I guess they sell the goose.
So the people get in there and disturb the birds, and the birds start honking, and the people take off. Sort of like around here, I know farmers that'll have guinea hens or guinea fowl.
Yeah.
And those things, man, when they go off, they're better than a guard dog. They make a racket. So anyway, I was just curious why he was in Kwajalein and when those photos were taken. So anyway, looking forward to next week's show and having Dan back so you can get his wisdom, because he's a whole lot better about size and weights and things like that. I'm just sort of, no pun intended, winging it today.
Winging it.
I know that one was
Wow.
that was a bad joke. It wasn't quacked up to be a good joke. Anyway, we go down a pun fest if we're not careful.
That's right.
But anyway, that video of the guy flying with geese. There's also a guy who taught sandhill cranes how to migrate using an ultralight or a fan wing or whatever they're called.
That's the way to gain a bird's respect, is to fly with them.
Yeah, I'll have to try and find. I've got a friend that was a pilot, and he'd fly out over a lake here, and he more or less became flying buddies with a bald eagle, and he would fly formation with this bald eagle, and he's got some amazing pictures of this bald eagle, and it was like they became flying buddies. It was really, really cool. I have to dig that picture up, see if I can get that from Craig. Right. So anyway, that's the show for this week. Looking for more pictures. Get out there and start taking pictures. The migration has started. I've been seeing people.
And the weather's nice. I mean, it's beautiful here today. I mean, it was gorgeous.
I saw something that there was a campaign in Houston to get people to turn out their lights the 7th, 8th, and 9th because the building's over 3 stories tall because of the migration that was forecast to happen. I need to do that in a couple episodes and talk about how they use weather radar to forecast. I've mentioned it, but I think we'll do an educational episode in 2 episodes.
Yeah, maybe Dan Scoff knows something about that.
Yeah, so
he's a friend of ours. He's a meteorologist. So
so we can talk. Maybe get him to come on the show too and talk about it. We'll talk about that, Scott. So anyway, you got anything, Scott?
I just want to say tomorrow we have our next episode of Focus on Astrophotography. We have also next Tuesday, we've got the 62nd Global Star Party celebrating the birthday of John Dobson. So Donna Smith from the Sawack Astronomers is going to be bringing on people that knew him when John Dobson was young and maybe just first starting out to, his later years. So, a definite icon in the world of amateur astronomy and literally known all over the world. The man was a monk and traveled all over the world, gave lectures everywhere, and just really was a Pied Piper of astronomy. So really cool. Yep. So, but I think that's it. Thanks to the audience for tuning in. And sorry we were a few minutes late, but we always make it. So somehow. All right. So you guys take care. And even with birds, keep looking up. So there you go. Talk to you later.
Bye, everybody.
Night.
Alpen Wings 8x42 binoculars are designed with versatility in mind. The BAK4 fully multi-coated optics, combined with the lightweight and ergonomic open-hinge body design, make these waterproof binoculars the perfect tool for any situation or weather. Armored and purged, these binoculars are tough enough to last against any minor bumps and dings and will never suffer from internal fogging. With the long eye relief and twist-up eye cups, the Alpen Wings 8x42 binoculars are the perfect tool for any adventure.